Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Good day, lovely viewers. Once again, you are welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. My name is Oyo Empire, and I'll be teaching you history. Today, we'll be looking at Yoruba land in pre-colonial Nigeria. Yoruba land in pre-colonial Nigeria. At the end of this lesson, students will 1. Trace the origin of Yoruba land. 2. Describe the factors that led to the formation of Oyo Empire. 3. Students will explain the socio-political organization of Oyo Empire. 4. Students will describe the economy of the Oyo Empire. And lastly, we will look at the factors responsible for the decline, fall, and collapse of the Oyo Empire. The origin of Yoruba land in pre-colonial Nigeria, which was during the period before the arrival of the Europeans. The Yoruba people are one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa, primarily located in southwestern geopolitical zone in Nigeria, with significant population in neighboring countries like Benin, Togo. The origin of the Yoruba people is rich in history and archaeology. Ile-Ife is regarded as the sacred home of the Yoruba people, and it is believed that Oduduwa was the progenitor of the Oyo people. According to legend, although there are diverse versions of the origin of the Yoruba people, some historians argued that the Yoruba people migrated from Egypt. In fact, some historians argued that Yoruba people migrated from Saudi Arabia, and with some proof, with some inhabitants of those regions with tribal marks. However, according to legend, Oduduwa descended from the heavens to Ile-Ife, where he established the first Yoruba kingdom and became its first ruler. Then his descendants moved and went to establish other Yoruba kingdoms. So this legend is widely more acceptable than other origin of the history of the Yoruba people. Going forward, we'll look at the factors responsible for the formation, rise, growth, and development of the Oyo Empire, because the Oyo Empire is one of the most prominent, the strongest kingdoms and empires in the Yoruba land. Number one is favorable geography. The Oyo Empire was located in the Savannah region, north of the dense forest of southern Nigeria. It is rich in fertile land used for agriculture. It serves as a favorable spot in terms of trade routes and others. 2. Political organization. The Oyo Empire had a well-structured political organization with a strong central authority. This helped the formation. And also, the Oyo Empire has a system in place which was known as check and balances in order to check the excesses and activities of its socio-political organization. Also, military strength. The Oyo Empire was known to have a well-disciplined and well-trained political armies, which helped the empire in terms of conquest and expansion. Economic prosperity. The Oyo Empire prospered economically as a result of the cultivation of staple crops like yam, millets, maize. Also, trade and tribute. The Oyo Empire engaged in trade, and tribute were being paid by vassal states. These vassal states are lesser states or kingdoms or empires that are under the Oyo Empire, which pays dues in form of tribute to Oyo Empire. Then also religious institution. The Oyo Empire had a strong religious foundation with the worship of Orisha, known as deities, playing a central role in the society. The Alaafin was not only a political leader, was also a spiritual figure that enforced authority. Socio-political organization of the Oyo Empire. The Oyo Empire had a well-structured socio-political organization with the Alaafin, known as the king, as the highest and supreme leader of Oyo Empire. He held both political and spiritual authority. As the head of the state, the Alaafin was responsible for making major decisions, including military campaign, conquest, expansion, administration, and diplomacy. Also, he was seen as the intermediary between the gods and the people, giving the Alaafin the rule on divine legitimacy. Also, the Alaafin resides at the capital city of Oyo Empire, which is known as Oyo-Ile. 2. The Oyomesi. The Oyomesi is a council of 7 principal nobles, 7 council of elders, that is headed by the Bashaun. The Oyomesi are kingmakers, and they hold very strong power in the Oyo Empire. They also serve as advisor to the Alaafin. Also, the Bashaun, who happens to be the head of the Oyomesi, holds significant influence and could check the powers of the Alaafin. The Oyo ensured that the Alaafin ruled according to the laws and customs of the empire. The council also had the power to compel the Alaafin to commit ritual suicide. Yes, the Alaafin actually have the power to impeach the Alaafin if the Alaafin has been found to have done things contrary to the laid down rules, guidelines of the empire. Also, the Alaafin has the power to also influence the Alaafin to make some certain decision. So the Oyo Empire is a very significant structure in place who they are in charge of checking and balancing the Alaafin. The Oyo Empire serves as the legislative arm of the Oyo Empire. 3. The Ogboni Society. The Ogboni Society was a secretive and influential religious society composed of elders and priests. They acted as the custodian of religious and moral rules and played crucial role in maintaining order and justice in the empire. They act as the judicial role in Oyo Empire. Then also, they has to do with handling disputes, maintaining checks on the Alaafin as well, and the Oyo Empire, and ensure that the laws of the empire were upheld. The Ogboni Society was headed by an Oluwo. 4. The Esho and the Ilari is known as the army. The army were elite cavalry officers that are well trained, and they were headed by the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. The Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, being the commander of the army in the Yoruba land, is very powerful. Powerful to the extent that he is not allowed to live inside the empire. The Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò has to live at the boundary, the outskirts of the empire. In fact, most Alaafin are usually being scared of the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò because the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò happens to be the most powerful man in the empire. However, it is worthy to note that when there is any war, military conquest or expansion, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò is expected to lead the army. When the army of the Oyo Empire goes to any war, it is a must for the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò to conquer. In a situation whereby the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò was defeated, there are two things involved. The Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò is not allowed to come back into the Oyo Empire. The two things involved is either the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò commits suicide or he goes on exile. An example of the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò was Afonja, which led to the controversial creation of Ilorin to today, because he lost a war and he tried to come back to Oyo Empire, but he was reminded of the tradition. So being a very powerful man, he said no, he can't commit suicide. He would rather live and go on exile, which he went to Ilorin, and that's a topic for another day. So Afonja is one of the examples of the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. And it is worthy to also note that the current Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò in Yoruba land as at today is Gani Adams. 5. Also, we have the Ilaris in the army as well. They are palace officials who also serve as military commanders. 5. Provincial governance. We have the Ajele and the local chiefs. The Ajele, the Oyo Empire was divided into various provinces. Each province governed by a representative of the Alaafin, known as the Ajele. They act as the Alaafin's proxy, collecting tax, administrating justice, and ensuring loyalty to the central authority, which is the Alaafin. Then also local chiefs. In addition to the Ajele, we have the local chiefs known as Baale or Oba. They govern towns and villages within the province. Economy of Oyo Empire. Agriculture. The Oyo Empire was blessed with fertile land and it made it to excel in the cultivation of crops such as yam, millet, maize, and the likes. 2. Trans-Saharan trade. The Oyo Empire engaged itself in the Trans-Saharan trade that took place through the Sahara Desert, where there were exchange of goods such as gold, salt, in exchange for slaves and other luxury items. 3. Craftsmanship and industry. The Oyo Empire had a thriving textile industry producing high-quality woven clothes, such as known as the famous Aso-Oke in the fashion industry. Slave trade. The Oyo Empire participated fully well in the slave trade that has to do with the buying and selling and transportation of slaves. Also, tribute system. The Oyo Empire also have the tribute system being put in place in order to get tributes, levies from vassal states. Factors responsible for the fall and collapse of Oyo Empire. Number 1 is weak leadership. As time goes on, there's some Alaafin that came into power that were weak in their leadership. This is one of the contributions that led to the fall. Number 2 is succession disputes. It is worthy to note that the Alaafin, the reign of the Alaafin is based on hereditary, which means when an Alaafin dies, it is expected that the heir to the throne or within the royal family will be the next Alaafin. So as a result of this, when one Alaafin dies, it is not usually easy to choose a new one. There is usually dispute within the royal family on who will become the next Alaafin. 3. British colonial influence. There was British colonial influence when they came. It brought about the fall of Oyo Empire. Abolition of slave trade. Oyo Empire also depended so much on the revenue gotten from slave trade, and when it was abolished, it led to its downfall. Then uprising of vassal states. There was a point in time whereby vassal states, the smaller states that depend on the Oyo Empire, began to revolt against the Oyo Empire. All these factors led to the downfall. Also, the effect of Yoruba civil war. There were some civil war that took place in Yoruba land, like Ekiti Parapo, which was the longest tribal war in Yoruba land. This was affected the fall, because the Oyo Empire lost several of its military strengths and armies. Also the spread of Islam, because when Islam was introduced, it was well accepted within the region of the Oyo Empire. So it also led towards the fall, then the decline of the economy. The accumulation of all this brought about the downfall, the collapse, and the decline of the Oyo Empire. Practice question. This is a question of WAEC 2015. It says, list any 3 towns which involved in the Yoruba Civil War of the 19th century. Number 1, Owu, Ijaye, Ekiti, that I mentioned earlier, the Ekiti Pakpo War, Ijebu. These are towns, Yoruba towns, that engaged in the Yoruba Civil War in the 19th century. Here is the end of today's class.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Kindly comment your views, perspectives, comments, and feedback on the social media platform displayed on the screen. Thank you for watching.